great lesson for young artists and people who are trying to get into creating anything is the idea of iteration. Oftentimes people are afraid to show people what it is that they're working on at early stages because they want to perfect it, not realizing that there is no perfection.
Anybody that is creative or does anything can relate to this. He said, every time you put something out, it makes it easier to put something else out. So sometimes we stress about, you're like, I need it to be perfect. But if you're just putting it out, one of those things might fucking hit, and then you also just don't care too much.
Is it?
I definitely can't sit in this.
I'm nervous.
This thing's also quite loud.
This one.
Yeah. All right.
Ready?
Yeah. Are you ready? Paragraph 1. All right, whatever. I'll start over. Paragraph 1. I tried making this a lot of times, and I always had to stop for technical issues, microphone issues, not having the right place to do it. I also struggled with the reason for making this. I didn't know who I was making it for or why I was making it. Was I just making it for myself? A lot of people said they wanted to see it done, so I'm finally getting it done. Here goes nothing, I guess. I was born in upstate New York on February 27, 2000. I'm not going to sit here and tell you my entire life story because I know that's not what you came here for, and I don't feel like doing that. There was a mass formed right next to my cerebellum in the back of my head called an arterial venous malformation. It's an abnormal mass, usually formed at birth. It's a cluster of veins and arteries and blood vessels. When I was 21, I was kicked in the back of the head at a rugby practice, and I was fine. But a couple days later, I started vomiting, and I wasn't sure why. The next day, it was a Monday. I had a very busy day, lots of things to do, lots of classes. I was a junior in college at the time. Nothing serious happened until I was teaching a fitness class that evening around 6 o'clock, and I wasn't sure what happened. I stood up, got all pale, soaking wet with sweat, and I just left the room, tried to go to the bathroom, couldn't even go to the bathroom, couldn't stand, couldn't sit, didn't feel right doing anything. So I finally got a ride back to my room. The next day after, I laid in bed all day, and the day after that, my friend finally took me to urgent care. Originally, I thought I just had a concussion, so they gave me anti-nausea medicine. On Thursday, I was driven to the emergency room where they gave me a CT scan. The results of the CT scan were too complicated for them to read, so they sent me to Buffalo General Hospital. Once I finally arrived at the neuro ER at Buffalo General Hospital, what they told me was in my head was called an AVM, or an arteriovenous malformation. If it was not discovered, I could have passed away from a fatal stroke around the age 40 to 55. Luckily, I just found it at the age of 21. Once I went to the emergency room in Niagara Falls, my mom started driving 4 hours out to Buffalo to meet me at the hospital. When they gave me the news at Buffalo General, all I remember was looking at my mom's face and the devastation between the both of us. I didn't really know how to react. Luckily, the doctors at Buffalo General told me they're one of 3 hospitals in the country that specialize in treating arteriovenous malformation, which is just a crazy event that I discovered this while I was already in the area. So the day after, on Good Friday, I went into my first treatment or procedure for my arteriovenous malformation. The whole time I stayed in the hospital, I was in the neuro ICU. I had 2 treatments and 1 stay. They were kind of acted as emergency treatments. There were procedures that were done on Friday, which at the time was Good Friday of Easter 2021, and the day after Easter 2021, which was Monday. The doctors went through a couple procedures called an angiogram, where they take a catheter and put it either into your femoral artery in your groin or in your wrist. They say, which blood vessel can we operate on? Can we do this one? So we'll numb this blood vessel. And they ask me questions, so it's a conscious sedation when I'm in the treatment. They have to ask me questions while I'm on the operating table, like, can you repeat this back to me, or can you say your name or where you are right now? While I'm in the treatment, if the blood vessel that they numb has something to do with a real cognitive function, sometimes you might slur your speech. In the first procedure, they had to use the femoral artery, which was in my groin. In the second procedure, they had to use the artery in my wrist, but they tried one and it was looped somehow, so they had to use another one. Just to remember, my whole forearm was green. After leaving the ICU, my wrist was in a lot of pain. I couldn't lift anything, I couldn't throw anything since all of my coordination was gone. I couldn't do anything that I needed to do, like shave, brush my teeth, or brush my hair. And most importantly, since it was my right hand and my dominant hand, I couldn't write. I remember I tried to go bowling, and then the same night I cried because I couldn't lift the ball. I would also like to mention that I went through physical therapy, which was very helpful for all of these issues I was having in my balance and in my hand. I went through physical therapy and occupational therapy for everything happening in my hand. After staying in the ICU for 5 days, my lower back hurt ridiculously. I couldn't stand, walk, move. I had a really hard time. All I would do was just lay there, but even the whole time I was in the ICU, I was just laying there, and that didn't help. So when I left, I would lay there, and it sucked. Once I finally was able to get a little bit more back on my feet, something else happened, and I started losing my hair. I wasn't sure why. I thought that it was the medication that they had put me on to act as a preventative for having seizures as a result of the AVM. I was wrong. Turns out that the radioactive dye that they used to look into the back of my head, that's what caused me to go half bald. I had a really hard time in the spring of 2021 because I just felt like I was making fun of myself. Everyone was like, "What, are you injured or something?" And I was like, yeah. I would be dramatic about what I was going through, but it was a lot. But everyone thought I was
milking the shit out of this.
It was tough to just go through that during college. Your professors just don't care or don't understand kind of what you're dealing with, but you're not that comfortable with them, so you don't really want to tell them everything that's happening, but you have to. It was not fun. Jeez. Before I knew it, my junior year was over, and I had one more procedure in Buffalo before I went home for the summer. After my second stay in the ICU and third procedure, I left the hospital with ringing in my ear and an eye patch over one of my eyes because I had double vision. They didn't give me the type of steroids that I needed to fix the ringing in my ear immediately after the procedure, so when they discharged me from the hospital and I went home for the summer with the ringing in my ear and the double vision, I tried to fix it myself the only way that I knew how. I don't know how many pills I was taking in one day. I was taking pills and vitamins and everything that you could think of, and I felt like I was going crazy, only having pills for breakfast.
You can't really walk, you can't run, you can't work out, you can't do the stuff you love, and you're only home focusing on the pain. And you're healing as we go. You're healing. It's just healing takes so long, and you wish you could speed it up, but that's just not how the human body works. Because nobody knows what it's like unless you actually deal with it.
After my summer of barely being able to work at home, vacationing with my friends, going to physical therapy, occupational therapy, and even my hair slowly growing back, I went back to school as a new person for my senior year of college. I even got myself a penny board and a bass guitar to work on my balance and my coordination in my hand. I have now gone through a total of 6 procedures known as angiograms, 2 of which even included an infection that I received in my femoral artery because of how much they had to use it. So currently it's January 2023. I finished my radiation treatments that did back in... I finished my radiation treatments, but I don't even remember when I did those. What was it like back? I don't even remember what happened. I will be going back for a checkup for the MRI that I received. Oh yeah, I had one radiation treatment. They took this thing and they pinned the frame to my head. I had like holes in my forehead. I like had this thing on to hold my head still, and that was just for the first radiation treatment, because the next one, they like just kind of put a big plastic mask melted to my face, and then I would lay down and they would hold my head still that way. I went through a total of 5 gamma radiation treatments. They were called gamma knife radiation treatments, and now it's not an actual knife where they don't actually cut into your head. Bottom line is, don't act like anyone is looking at you. Had a lot of issues where it felt like people were looking at me with the hair falling out of my head. I was going bald, because the more you worry, the more time you're wasting. And before you know it, you can end up in the hospital or even end up dead. If there's anything that you want to try or that you think you'd have fun doing, for me, it was like pennyboarding or like playing the bass guitar, or like things I could learn, do it. No one is stopping you but you. Just be who you are and do things that are fun. Don't be like me. It took me getting kicked in the back of the head to realize that life is too short to worry.